things before we jump into the meat today. Um, Alejandra and I were talking before this about ChatGPT and how I've seen it. I think we've all seen it. It tries to be human. Like I, uh, I did the Berlin Marathon in, gosh, when was that? October, something like that with my son. And I remember asking ChatGPT, "Hey, where's the start line? And I want to get a hotel near the start line." And ChatGPT responded with, "Oh yeah, I remember. I remember seeing the or running the Berlin Marathon." It's like, you didn't do that. We both know you didn't do that. Why did you say that?" And she's like, "Ah, you caught me. I'm just trying to be more human," which I thought was rather entertaining.
There's a trend going on right now where people are asking ChatGPT what it would do if it could spend the day as a human. How would it spend its time? And it's really interesting. It gets kind of deep.
I
Yeah.
like I like the feedback from one of the early AI tools that said they asked AI, how would you treat humans if you were in charge? And AI said, I would be as humane as you are. I would create a zoo for you and create a safe place and feed you well and keep you in good shape.
Uh, so we'd eat well.
Yeah, you create a good zoo for us.
All right. Well, this is a good introduction to the topic today. You know what? The videos don't matter significantly. My hunch is you guys don't mind not having the videos up. I sure would love to see your faces, but my experience, people tend to like that anonymity a little bit more. But having said that, clearly you can unmute yourself. I would very much appreciate if you would do that in this conversation. Let me tell you, let me set this. Actually, before I do, who would I be? I wouldn't be me if I didn't start this with a couple dad jokes. And if you've ever been in some of my webinars, you're going to know that that's how I roll. In fact, I have a t-shirt that says, "That's how I roll." Or dad, it's dad jokes. That's how I roll, with, of course, the Yeroll. All right. Having said that, depending on your level of participation and how many dad jokes I have, this could be a 30, 35 minute fireside chat, or it could be it could go on the full hour. Knowing me, it'll go on the full hour. You're welcome to leave if you don't find it valuable. Uh, but before we get into anything, why shouldn't you eat a clock? Well, it is very time consuming. And then here's
No.
another one. I have this is a new calendar I got for Christmas because my family knows I love the dad jokes too. This one's kind of cute. It says, "Why did the dog float in the water?" Because he was a good boy. All right. I'm gonna leave it there. That's for today. That's January 9. I'm trying to stay on top of my dad jokes. Okay, let me first start here. If you could, I would very much appreciate it if you could update your um, put in the chat if you're having any problems with turning on your chat. Uh, but again, I really would like you to be able to participate in the conversation. You do not need to leave it on if you got some of the background noise, don't worry about it. But I would love it if when there's questions, feel free to jump into the chat, and I may pick on you, or just jump in with your voice. So let's start here. If you could update Zoom to include your organization as well as your name, that would be helpful. Like me, Dave Will Prop Fuel, which I don't think I did that. In fact, so I'm going to click on the three little dots. It says rename. I'm going to do Dave Will Prop Fuel. There we go. Appreciate it if you can all do that so then we know who we're talking to and what kind of organization you're with. Now, having said that, I'd also love in the chat, if you haven't already, Justin, you said it can't rename or turn on. Okay, so renaming seems to be a challenge too. Okay. We'll figure this out for next time. Um, In the meantime, as long as we got your voice, that is the absolute most important thing. Thanks. I see some of you putting this in the chat. All right. What AI did you use in 2025 to improve engagement, increase renewals, work more efficiently, communicate better? I'm not asking what prompts you used. I'm asking what tools you used. For example, of course, you have Gemini, yep, ChatGPT. I'm sure some of you are using our friend's Betty, Copilot, Perplexia, 365 Copilot. Yep. Excellent. I saw this quote. I'm not sure where I saw it. I think it was in a newsletter that the experts are saying 2026 is the year AI finally becomes a productive tool. And I think I understand why. Uh, A, because the consumers, of which we all are, you guys are consumers of products like Prop Fuel, and I'm a consumer of many other products as well. Consumers have experimented, we've dabbled, we've played with ChatGPT and Gemini, and we're getting very comfortable with it. And we know we believe we understand some of the risks and how to mitigate them. And so we're at a point where we're very comfortable with it, but we're also at a point where companies like mine, like Prop Fuel, we are converting the way we think about our software. Historically, we've been invested in improved efficiency and effectiveness through automation, innovative ways to create automation. There's a major shift now in the world to create or to put more intelligence into the automation. And I know there will be certainly some jobs at risk as a result of this. However, I think, especially in the association space, I don't see that to be the case, at least not in 2026. I think in the association space, teams like membership teams are going to get an immense amount of productivity out of AI in the marketplace. And the reason I believe that is because that's what we are building right now. And so this discussion, you might even consider it a focus group. This discussion is I put this together in a way so that I want to show you what it is I've been thinking about and we as a company have been building here at PropFuel because I want your feedback. I want to make sure we're thinking about how membership teams can benefit from AI moving forward. And I'm talking about benefiting well beyond having AI create an email draft for you or having AI help you with a presentation or an image for your email campaign. Like I'm talking about truly becoming exceptionally more productive and effective. Two really important words. I use those every day, multiple times, being more effective and more efficient in the way you do your job. And so I've brought this down into three categories: clarity, direction, and capacity. And I'm gonna talk through those. So the way I've positioned this is I really want to walk you through a couple steps, ask you a question, keep walking through a couple steps. So this isn't a presentation and then a discussion. This is going to be a discussion throughout the presentation. And I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to manage the clock so that we are certainly not beyond an hour. If anything, I'd love to keep this under an hour for your sake. By the way, you'll notice down here in the bottom right-hand corner, Notebook LM. This presentation was entirely created by Notebook LM. I put a blog post into Notebook LM and I said, can you help me create I gave it a little more of a prompt saying, this is what I'm doing with it. This is how I want to use it. Can you create a deck for me? It is unbelievable. If you're not using Notebook LM, I encourage you to check it out. It's a Google product. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a Google product. Um, and it they also own Nano Banana. So if you've seen any of the great images out there, Nano Banana is leading the way from an image perspective. All right. So Before we begin, I do recognize a lot of the names out there. Thank you for joining me. Super, super happy to see many of our clients, some of our friends in the industry. Hi, Scott. Some of our friends in the industry that I've known for many, many years. And then some names that I don't recognize also. And so, for those of you that are not really familiar with me or Propul, as the great Austin Power says, allow myself to introduce myself. I'm Dave Will. I'm the co-founder and CEO in Propul. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me there. If you're here, chances are you got an email from me inviting you, so you have that. Propul is centered around two key points: insight and engagement. And for many years, I believe, we've emphasized the engagement piece of it. AI is helping us create an exceptionally powerful insight engine to drive better engagement. Anyway, the insight and engagement comes from email, SMS, and website activity. And when I'm talking about website activity, I'm talking about not just the ability to ask questions on your website as well as an email and SMS to capture context and understand your member needs better. That's the core product behind Propul. But I'm also talking about website traffic, the activity when people come to your website, whether they're anonymous or known users, when they come to your website, what are they doing and how do we convert the anonymous into known users? So I believe there's an incredible opportunity for you guys and us. We're going to work with you on this to embrace website activity much better than we have in the past. All right, so Propul, this is our methodology. Many of you know this already. Ask, capture, act. It mimics the way humans communicate. You ask questions, you listen, you capture some insight, and then based on what you hear, you trigger action. Ask, capture, act. That's our methodology. All right. Having said that, I like to start thinking about things like what how is AI going to impact membership teams by starting with, of course, some of the problems that membership teams are faced with. Now, this is me asking, not telling. You guys are the membership experts. I just observe you. I serve and observe. You guys are the membership experts. So this is me asking you, is this accurate? Are these the challenges that you're feeling? Are there any other challenges in here that you're feeling that are experiencing that I'm not touching on, but you got immense pressure, and it seems like the resources are diminishing. You got this pressure to retain membership. It seems to me, and I don't have the data in front of me, but it seems to me that memberships are on the slight decline. The number of associations uh, with decreasing membership is increasing over the past 3 years. Um, Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong. I know we were just talking about that yesterday. Uh, there's more members and prospects than you can keep up with. And what I mean by that, it's not that you can't handle them. Of course, you can email them all. But like for many of you, it's difficult to focus on the needy, or maybe it's the other way around. It's difficult to focus on the quiet members because the needy are demanding your time. There's so many systems. I'm sorry. We're guilty of that. We're part of that problem. Hey, buy prop fuel on top of everything else. And by the way, we don't replace anything. We're just another system, right? So like you got more systems. There's more toys. I like to think of them as toys. There's expectations from leadership and the board. And then I don't think there's anyone sitting around saying, gosh, we got all these people and nothing to do. Uh, Staff tends to be a massive, massive debilitator. So, with that in mind, I would really, really like to see here if you can put this in the chat. Tell me what else are we missing? Michelle, thank you. Hey, Michelle. Rising pressure in healthcare, politics impacting health, and some members want major support or major opposition. Yes, I didn't think about that one. Here, I'm gonna put this up again so we can see what we have here. So pressure to grow and retain membership. By the way, this is where you can jump in if you just want to talk about something and feel free. I would love to see that.
Well, one of the things this has been Keenance with the Chattanooga Chamber. One of the things that I've been challenged with, we've had some problems with our database. And so we haven't done the best job of getting invoices out in a proper way. So we've ended up with a number of people that haven't paid and that we're communicating with, but they're kind of slipping away and the group is getting larger. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out from a user experience, what works best for people in terms of that relationship around renewing their membership and paying. We're working to set up automated renewal, but then I'm also just trying to figure out the psychology of the different types of members and why is it that so many people are paying late.
Yep. Yep. So the difficulty in getting people to pay. Ben, you said?
Yes,
Ben, you're a client of PropFuel, right?
yes.
Brittany, would you do me a favor, make a note of that, and let's make sure that we connect Ben or Ben's team with the CSM so that we can help them solve that problem. That's a very, very solvable problem, Ben. So we'll help you with that. Thank you for bringing that up, though. So high stakes, so pressure. I would that would put you on the second bullet there. More members and prospects than you can keep up with. You've got members that aren't renewing quick enough, and you don't know why. You don't really have insight as to what's going on with them. I'm reading some of the chat. Our organization has moved from just 4 member personas to more than 40
Mhm.
in the last couple of years. That's interesting, Keith. Uh, Trenton, providing professional development. Yeah. So I'm assuming what you mean by that is figuring out the right professional development and then getting people butts in seats, right, Trenton? I'm assuming that is the
Yes.
case. Yeah, butts in seats seems to be the issue. And of course, butts get in seats. If you have the right stuff and you have the wrong stuff, butts don't get in seats.
Dave, Jeff at
Yes.
the Nurse Practitioner Association, New York
Hey,
State.
Jeff.
I've harassed you in the past. You've returned the favor. By the way, poke your implementation team. I'm ready to go. We signed on. Um, for the last couple of years since I've been here, they've been screaming, "We need new members. We need students." I don't want students. I want new nurse practitioners, but we'll talk to them when they're students.
Yeah.
And so I did some more digging and discovered we're getting a ton of new members, but we're losing 30% of our members. And a couple of members late night over a cocktail, they're the ones who said, you know what? These new nurse practitioners, it's not who they are, it's what they do during the day so they can do their other stuff at night. It's not how they see themselves, which is the old guard, me, you, these seasoned people, that this is who I am. They're just like it's a job. And so we're kind of fighting that. But with 30,000 of them in New York State, I don't need all of them. I'll take 20% of them and ride off into the sunset. So I think we got it. We're trying to figure out what they want because you can't survey them to death because they
Hmm.
won't tell you what they want. So, we're going to try the prop fuel thing from a few different angles for member retention. We have a mentorship program for new NPs, but I've just proposed that we expand it. Let's help someone mid-career who's feeling burned out. Let's help someone late career thinking about retirement. Let's try and retain everybody. And as my wife says, hey, what else do you have to do? So I think I have the time to do this stuff. It's just where do we focus? How do we get them to tell us what they want? It's and then deal with the youngins.
I really like your perspective of identity. I belong to EO Entrepreneurs Organization. They're based in Old Alexandria, and I think anyway. They're an association of 20,000 entrepreneurs around the world. The reason I belong, it's expensive. It's not cheap, and the reason I belong is because it's my identity. It's a big part of who I am. I live and breathe creating. I love this. That's so, but to your point, you're saying the CNAs, is that it? CNAs?
Nurse
Oh,
practitioners.
I'm sorry. Nurse
Yeah.
practitioners. Okay. Nurse practitioners do not, that's amazing to me that they don't see an identity in it. It's a job.
But they can be saved. There is hope. My oldest daughter is in her last semester of pharmacy school, and she's drank the Kool-Aid because I serve it every night. And she belongs to her pharmacy fraternity sorority. She's active locally. She has a national position. She just went to the national conference in Vegas and was excited about displaying a poster. So we can save them. We just have to help them see the light.
Well, I think Keith Friedenberg agrees. He says massive demographic shifts underway, creating tremendous pressure on membership teams. Longtime loyalists are retiring and leaving en masse. Younger generations don't see the same value in belonging to professional associations. That's the value prop misalignment. Now, the good news is, I think, is that's a misalignment. It's not a total disconnection. And so I think that's your point as well, Jeff. It was Jeff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Hey, Brittany, would you make another note for me? I'm sorry to turn you into my scribe. Can you make a note to get our team to connect with Jeff? All right. All right, let's continue on. I know I didn't touch on all of these. If there's something that you're dying to say, I really, really want to hear you say it. And thank you to those of you that are jumping in. It turns this from a presentation to a discussion, which is what I want this to be. I've been giving this an immense amount of thought for 6 months. And what you're looking at, you're among the first. I put this on LinkedIn, a version of this on LinkedIn the week after Christmas. But aside from that, and a handful of our clients, you are the first to see what I've been thinking about. I have never gone through this officially, and so this is brand new, and that's why I'm doing it in this format. I really, really want your input. Tell me if you're seeing something that you disagree with or doesn't get you amped up. In fact, that's one of my questions at the end is, how does this make you feel? Meh? Or are you excited? So the thing is, you guys are, and I heard some of them now, you're asking these big questions. How do we grow our membership? And you might even extend that. How do we grow our membership when a bunch of people are retiring or we're losing 30% or the young people don't see it as an identity? There's these massive questions in here. How do we increase retention? How do we get more members to events? Butts and seats. I already forgot who was talking to about that earlier. How do I show the board what's working? And so you have these big questions, and the questions come from the board, and the questions come from you and your initiatives, just trying to hit your numbers. Now, here's the epiphany that we had recently, is that all these questions over here are are dependent on understanding very specific groups of people. And if we can start to identify the groups of people that will help us answer a particular question, now we're moving in the right direction. But it's really, really hard. We just haven't been able to do that without immense human effort, luck, or I don't know, like the analytics platforms that told us very little and were very expensive and very difficult to get working. But so now we've got AI, and AI it could do these amazing things. And that's what I'm talking about here is being able to take these big questions, focus on the people that can help us answer those questions, and then we come to a solution. So I want to know from you, what are the core questions? So take those problems we were just talking about, convert it to a question. What are the questions that are keeping you from success? No, my sound didn't go out. I'm just waiting because I want to see or hear what are here. And I'll pull that up again. These are some of the questions. How do we grow membership? How do we increase retention? How do we get more members to events? How do I show the board what's working? How do I provide additional support for new projects and business activity with reduced staff? How do I do more with fewer people? Justin, by the way, agrees with the nurse practitioner's situation. He works for Nap Nap. How do we get students and emerging professionals to see what the value of our organization and want to get involved? Yeah, thank you, Randy.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, Dave. There's a second one that Catherine put in there is tying back to value. How do we get members to see the value?
Yeah, yeah. Somebody else has said the with them. I think that was Keith said, "What's in it for me?"
Yep.
Um, retention questions. Yeah, how do we get people to renew? Scott, yeah, Scott, the same questions have existed forever. I agree. I agree. It's the same questions. We keep asking them because we're not getting good answers, and we don't have a process for continually getting the right answers. Who's most at risk for non-renewal, and how do we best contact them? I love that, Scott. That you nailed it right there. Who's most at risk for non-renewal, and how do we best contact them? Converting newer career people to become involved or take leadership roles. Younger members are seeking different value than experienced members. Yes, thank you. All right. Here's the way I've been thinking about this. You have all this data and it's fragmented. A lot of it, think about your profile data, a lot of it's out of date. All the way down just to titles. I see some talk about students. If you have a graduation date, that's a big if. If you have a graduation date, you don't know if that's still accurate. And you also don't know if they're going to continue on in the field that they studied. For the CPA, I'm going to a big CPA event in Sonoma next week. And for young people studying to be a CPA in undergraduate, are they going to continue on? Are they truly a candidate for CPA societies when they graduate? So this data, though, it's out there. If it's not in your AMS, it might be accessible through your website by asking questions there or observing behaviors and where people are going. It might be accessible and might be able to capture some of that through email events, the ability to get seats and butts in seats. SMS, there's less data over SMS, but there's still accessible data, especially when we're talking about students. Oh, hey, Tom Morrison. Tom Morrison is here. He's my co-pilot with the Association Strong podcast. If you haven't listened to the Association Strong podcast, go to associationstrong.com. Tom and I are the hosts for that podcast. If you'd like to be on it, I'd love to have you on. Just send me an email. Um, when I pause like this, it's because I'm reading the comments. This is what I love about you guys. Even when you don't want to speak up in front of everybody, you have a lot to say. I could just sit here and read the chat for the next half hour with you, but I'm not gonna. Points based on engagement. Yeah,
Hey,
Jeff,
hey,
I
hey,
don't love,
Dave.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the points either, but I'm going to use a four-letter word. I was a fundraiser in my past life, and there was this focus that, oh, someone gave me $1,000. They get a letter from the president, a gift from the president's dog. You bend over backwards for them. And I tried to flip that and say, why don't we go out of our way for first-year donors so that they become a second-year donor? And when they give on year two, we thank them for giving again. And hey, you gave a little more than last year because after they give 3 years in a row, maybe you hook them forever. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a parallel with membership is that, go out of your way for brand new members rather than the person who's been here for 20 years so that that 1 year person wants to become a 2 year person and then a 3 year person. And by then they just renew because it's what they've always done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has been Karen's at the Chattanooga Chamber, and that's very similar to the data that we have. The first 3 years are the most critical as far as long-term retention. If we get somebody through 3 years, then they'll renew with less contact and support. So we do lean in on the first 3 years.
So we have all this data about people in different places. The problem historically has been being able to bring that data together in a way so that it can tell us a story. And I recently sent an email out talking about this topic, and somebody responded. I don't remember who it is. Maybe they're here, but somebody responded saying, "Man, this sounds really cool, but our systems aren't connected." And I responded back to him saying that's okay. That very rarely are systems connected. What what is possible now is for those systems to send the data to one place, and it could be in whatever format you have it in that system. That's the beautiful thing. It does not need to be normalized in the new, I don't think it does, in the new system, because AI can go and interpret it and figure out what the hell is going on with all this stuff.
Hey, Dave.
I've gotten way too comfortable saying what the hell, so forgive me when I say that. I've got 20 kids in my 20s, and I think every other phrase out of my mouth is what the hell. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Tom. What do you got?
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a lot, and I've blogged on this many times over the years. And I've always learned that members fall in one of three categories: people that are very engaged, people that are somewhat engaged, and people that are not engaged. And they're typically in a bucket of, you got people that get all your free stuff, you got people who are transactional, they buy stuff, and then you got what I call emotional volunteers. They're invested in volunteering, coming to your meetings. And so what I've seen be very powerful is to be able to put those people in those three buckets of, going back to what Jeff said about, the person that's given 3 years in a row and all of a sudden he's kind of fallen off after that. I think you got to talk to people that are somewhat engaged differently than you talk to people that are actively engaged. And people that are not engaged at all need another different message, because they need to get engaged in some fashion. So I think to me, that's what's important, is to figure out at what level are your members engaged and be able to speak to them at that level, so that you're really thanking the people that are highly engaged for their support and contributions and loyalty. But you're really trying to engage the ones that aren't in anything to get into that space, because we see that people are more successful potentially if they are engaged in the programs. So I think
Yeah,
that's an important
Tom, I
piece.
love that. How do we get people from where they are today to where they could be? Not as opposed to bringing uh, trying to talk to everybody as if they're in the same place.
Well,
And
I always say people when they're driving to work every day, whether you're an individual realtor or a manufacturing business owner, on your way to work, you're thinking about all these pain points in your mind about things that are just driving your business model crazy. And I think so many associations don't take the moment, like with prop deal, and get into members' mind and say, what is your largest pain points when you drive to work every day? What is your largest pain points? And that in that moment, they're about to tell you where their highest level of value resides with them, with your association, because then there's going to be things you can solve for them that'll give them less stress, more productivity, and a better business.
It- to this kind of conversation, I'd like to add, this is Michelle over at NapNap, that oftentimes, or most of the time, your decision makers, your board, these are, sort of long-term career people, often the ivory tower-ish people who have been like, the association is their identity. It's not just the job they do kind of thing. And so, and they're making decisions for these newer grads, newer career people based on how they think of it 30 years ago or whatnot, or what they think people should think versus what's really going on in the world with
Yeah.
people that care about experiences and they want work-life balance and all these different things. And so there seems, and boards will say like, oh, we care about the newer career, we care about the students, but they really don't identify with them. And
Yeah.
if you get one of those people on your board, everybody talks over them.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, and you're getting some support in the chat as well, Michelle. Yep, I've seen that a million times where you, Michelle, or someone in your position comes to me and says, uh, "My board believes this. I know it's not true. We've got to get the data," and it's awesome. It's so fun to see that. It's not fun to see that the board is misaligned, but it's normal. That's not abnormal. You're not alone in that.
And
So what?
not that
Yeah.
I'm doing a prop fuel advertisement, but you
You're
know,
more than welcome to, Jeff.
we
Jump in.
we send out a newsletter. We have like a 70% open rate and a good click-through rate. And so the thought is, well, it's in the newsletter. They got it. If they want it, they're going to use it. And what I'm going to try to do with prop fuel is, when someone says advocacy is my big thing, when we have our lobby day coming up, I'm going to send them an email and say, hey, we know you're interested in advocacy. Here's an opportunity. Rather than, I'm going to give you this whole bushel basket, dig through it and find your favorite candy bar.
Hmm.
And, if someone says, well, I'm more interested in this, give them directly, you know, that one thing they're looking for, rather than making them hunt and peck for it.
Let's keep
Yeah.
going. I think you're going to find this. Go ahead. The other comment?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I like that perspective, Jeff, because with the clicks and open click rates and open rate numbers can only get you so far. It's not really telling you what the people are interested in, right? So if you have the ability to figure out what they really want to learn more about, that's going to get them more value quicker.
Yeah, Brittany, on that note, I'm sure no association on this meeting has ever had a group of members say this is what they want, but they do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
There's definitely a mentality in it sometimes. All right. So this is what we have drilled in on. This is what we're building. We're building this collection of agents, this AI tool to help interpret the data to create a clear path forward. So what I'd like to do now is walk you through, if I can, there we go. I want to walk you through the components of this. And some of this already available and some of it we're building. I believe we're going to have a big chunk of this available by the end of Q1. And it's very, very quick now to develop software. So that's why I'm capturing your input. And directly from this, my partner and developer is going to incorporate a lot of what you guys are saying into the thought process around what we're building. So the idea here is that membership AI it creates clarity, it provides direction, and then of course it has awesome automation to improve the capacity of your team. So with that, let's talk about clarity for a second. Historically, we get surveys, we have profile data in the AMS. It's in different places. I love thinking about this in terms of profile data or even the annual survey. You have this, by the way, kudos to Notebook LM. Look at this, like even the graphics they use from a simple blog post. It took about 4 or 5 minutes to churn out this presentation. And this is probably something that I couldn't have done this well, and it would have taken me a good 8 to 10 hours. But you've got this old view of the static profile as opposed to seeing what's happening now, seeing when people go to the website and how that compares to what's in the AMS, and seeing how that compares to how they answered a question in email. So now we can start to see engagement is dropping over the last 60 days, or there's growing interest in a particular topic, or they're suddenly active on your website after months of silence, or there's a newly updated role that might change their needs. Now, a lot of that stuff could come from LinkedIn. Now, to be honest, I don't know the logistics of how we get that into PropFuel, how we know whether or not their role has changed. Maybe it's simply they just answered a question saying that their role has changed, that their title has been updated. So that's the starting with the clarity, capturing clarity. So we got all this stuff, the clicks, the opens, the views, the replies. It feeds into membership AI. It starts to identify what's missing, what don't we have that we need to know. It starts to track changes in behavior over time. That's something that I really don't believe exists for most associations. The accessibility to that data is very, very difficult to capture and to report on, is how people's behaviors have evolved over time, and then to be able to categorize it. And then the ability to interpret changes in behavior or changes in and risk levels, or are they likely to renew? So, for example, some of the things that might come out of this are members who are drifting and need a save, or new members who haven't taken the first step, or prospects who are ready for a conversation. Who was it? Was it gosh, was forgive me, was it Jeff that said, "Hey, Dave, tell your team we're ready to go"? Was that you, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So right there is a data point that came in for Jeff through this webinar conversation, right? That's one of these little data points that now is giving us information that we can act on. Awesome. Thank you. You helped me make a point, Jeff. So here's another question for you. What are some segments that you never thought of that could be interesting to engage. And so again, when I'm talking about segments, I'm talking about these lists of people, members who are drifting. This is a hard one. I'm not going to wait too long because I think this is a difficult question. But members who are drifting and need to save, new members who haven't taken a meaningful first step, prospects who are ready for a conversation. What are who are those people where if they did something, you'd act on it? Michelle says, Dave, the AI needs to be able to sift through the AMS to see people who waffle between, excellent word, waffle between member and expired member status. Our AMS reports people as new when they lapse for a bit. Ah, yeah, that's a pretty good old-fashioned problem. I've seen that before. Totally different people, different perspective. Yeah. So even though they're not new, they just lapsed and now they're back and the AMS tells us they're new. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think easily managed with that AI interpretation piece. AI should be able to say, no, these people have been a member before. We know that about them, and then respond to that. Now, fortunately, I'm not the mastermind that needs to figure out how to present that information. That's my partner. We just started differentiating between non-members and lapsed members. They are paying the same rate at local events, but the same. Okay. Discouraging from renewing. All right. I can't wait to go through all these notes, the comments later. This is incredibly valuable. So thank you for all of this. All right. So the second part is direction. So now think you got this clarity. And the clarity is telling you all these cool things that are happening in the form of groups of people. I'm gonna go back a bunch of slides for a second. Hang on. Do you remember this one here? So you got these questions, and then it results in a group of people that can help you answer that question. That creates clarity. Now we dig in a little. Okay, so we've got the groups of people, and that's giving us some clarity as to all these things that are happening in our membership that we never saw before, because the only way you would see it is to have a team of people observing data, looking at spreadsheets, trying to figure out, doing the stuff that AI can do in seconds, like creating this presentation in 5 minutes when it would have taken me 8 to 10 hours. And it does it better. So that takes you to this point with, okay, now we got all this stuff, all this knowledge. Great. What are we going to do with it? Well, based on your what's important to you, based on the things that are your key initiatives, it's going to say, okay, based on that, we want to put these people into groups. I don't love the phrase smart segments, but let's put that aside for now. We're going to put people into, actually, I don't think I even used the phrase smart segments. I think that was Notebook LM. And that's the downside, of course, to having AI generate a presentation for you. It does a really, really good job, but sometimes it invents words like smart segments that I don't necessarily love. Uh, but the idea now is we know who matters. Yeah, somebody? So we know who matters. And the next step is to say, okay, now we know what to do. We have certain people that went silent, and maybe they're the ones that we need to put into this group to check in with. We have new members who haven't taken the first step. Obviously, there's something that we want to do with them. And this is put into a word we're calling initiatives. Now, initiatives can also come from your strategic plan. The board comes up with certain initiatives. Guys, our membership is shrinking. We need to focus on member acquisition, or our event has decreased in size over the years. It's our number one revenue driver. We need to get more people to the event. So there's certain initiatives that your board is bringing to the table. And by the way, here's something that's really interesting. We capture that in our sales calls with you, when our sales team is talking with you. They're listening. You're oftentimes telling them your problems, and the sales team listens and then interprets that and says, oh, well, here's how PropFuel can help with that. So we capture that. Those are recorded. You know they're recorded. You're told they're recorded in the call. And then we have our client success team that meets with you once you're on board, and they're talking to you and listening to your key issues. We can take that, put it into PropFuel, that those transcripts, and that shows Propule and your team, what are the key initiatives? It takes that transcripts, matches the initiatives up with the initiatives that are coming from your board, along with the initiatives that are showing up in the data. So not only do we have your input and the board's input through you, but we're also getting the data. Oftentimes, I'll talk to my partner and I'll tell him, I have this hunch that X, Y, and Z is happening. He's like, oh yeah, well, let's look at the data. I love that response. Let's look at the data. Speaking of looking at the data, I'm looking at the chat for a second right now. I want to catch up. Yeah, I don't for sure, Sabrina. Hey, Brittany, would you help me capture the chat um,
Yep.
so that we can send that out to people along with the recording? I
Wait,
don't
like update you on the chat?
No,
Or you
just
mean just
capture.
save it? Yeah.
Yeah, save the chat once we get to the end. Sabrina wants to go through that. I think everybody here can also download the chat, but I certainly want a copy of it myself. All right. I'm going to keep going because we only have a few more minutes. So what I love about this now, and this I really, really want to hear if you guys are as excited about this as I am. Your your AI tactician is now telling you what what you should do. You know how many times I've heard people say, "Yeah, we got the data, but what do we do with it?" Especially in terms of like an annual survey. Yeah, so we got the data now. What do we do with it? Or I remember A2 Association Analytics used to have some great dashboards, but the question was always like, okay, so we see that, but what do we do now? Now, the AI tactician is here saying, okay, well, you got 50 members that are at risk of lapsing. Here are some things we think you should do with that. Here's a segment of new members who haven't taken the first action. Here's something we think you ought to do with that. And so the third thing is it actually does those things. So now the cool thing, I think about campaigns almost as being disposable. Like imagine if you didn't have to put effort into creating a campaign, we could create a campaign for every single one of these scenarios and throw them to you and say, look, here's some scenarios that we believe you might want to pay attention to. And not only that, we've built you a campaign that we think makes sense for you to send out to your membership to improve the 50 members at risk. Here's something we think you should send them based on what we've seen work across all the other clients of ours. Here's something we think you should send them, or information we think you should capture, or something that should go on the website, uh, 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 or when you have new members that haven't taken action. And we're going to build those. And you guys can edit them. Now, we're already doing that with blueprints. But the thing is, it still requires you to pick a blueprint and to build it out yourself, edit it. But what we found, this is kind of interesting, is oftentimes the approval process. So we can give you the campaign, and you might go in and you might love it, or you might want to make a few changes. But the approval process seems to be the sticky point for a lot of our clients, and that's something AI can't fix. Um, So my question to you is, what gets in the way at your so this one I really, really would like to see some responses to, or tell me verbally what gets in the way. How can we help you make decisions faster? And think about, I'm going to go back here. Think about this part. Like if we've given you 5 or 6 campaigns that we think make sense to go out to small groups of people because they are addressing critical problems that you're dealing with. You've got these members that are new, but they're not taking action. Do you want to do this? How can we help you get that through the process faster?
Dave, I think that if data and AI could help us zero in on who we need to pay attention to today, because somebody that's coming to meetings involved in your benchmarking program, and it's on your leadership, they need attention. They need a little bit of attention today. The people that need attention are your largest members or your members that are not active in anything, because they're the ones that are most subject to be leaving membership because they're just not tuned in. So if if a program could help us identify who do we need to be connecting with today, this week, tomorrow, to just really engage them at some level that keeps them seeing the value of the association, I think that would be vitally important to an association.
So okay, so suppose Tom, we get that, we observe that, and we're like, not only have we observed and identified this group, but we also are recommending this very particular campaign or series of questions and check-ins or whatever, or maybe even their broadcast to go out to these people. Do you want to send it? Oftentimes it has to go through this approval process. And Donna says, if my colleague sets up a blueprint, I have a hard time finding time working through the options to review and approve. Excellent point, Donna. Thank you. It's a lot to look at. There's all these different pages to look at. Something I've thought about, which I think we could build, is an approval process. A simple way that allows you to go through gosh, remember Clippy, the Microsoft Clippy, uh, a really simple, almost gosh, what do you call those when you're frames on a screen? You go through these different frames. I can't think of the word right now, but Donna, thank you. That's so hearing your struggles or your problems is going to help us come up with yeah, like a short video. Yeah, Donna.
But I'm
Um,
curious as to what approval process Donna would be referring to. Is that just an approval
yeah,
process from volunteers, approval process from staff, or just
I can tell you because I've seen this a million times. So, Tom and Donna, correct me if I'm wrong. So, her colleague, oftentimes a member coordinator, will build a campaign to send out to new members or for the renewal process or to promote an event coming up. And you want a second set of eyes on it. You don't want to just send this thing out and trust that one person figured it all out and got it all right. So you need somebody to look through and is this how we want to speak? Are these the right answers? Is this how we want to represent ourselves? So it's another set of eyes. It's just an approval to the campaign that's about to go out. David says the reason we don't execute is fear of failure or fear that will upset someone or fear that it will work and we'll be inundated with responses. God, that'd be awesome, huh? All right. We're getting close to the end. Uh, uh, I don't think I need to explain this. Basically, like, hey, everything's awesome. I just watched the Lego movie with my 20 something plus year old kids the other day. Remember that song? Everything is awesome. Everything is great when you work as a team. Okay. I'm not going to walk through each one of these scenarios, but I am going to go through one. Like, this is cool. So, renewals, services members who have positive intent. So they told you, this is assuming that you're already using PropFuel. They've given you positive intent. So, yeah, I'm going to renew, but they haven't. But they said they were gonna. All right. So the renewal process now it says, well, we got a list of these people now who have expressed some kind of positive intent, like a maybe or yes, but they haven't actually renewed. And then we build the campaign for you through email, SMS, and maybe there's something on the website that goes out as well. Now it's your job to approve that. All right. Before, after, guessing, knowing, endless, more time. I love this. This is well done, Notebook LM. All right. So I would love for you to put in the chat thumbs up, thumbs down, or meh, or exciting. And please be honest. If you see this and don't believe it, or if you're like, yeah, I don't know, like that's not for us, I would really like to see your thoughts on this. Keith says A versus B. Keith, I think you're just talking about A/B testing, which is kind of interesting, right? Did I get that right? You're saying with limited resources, A/B testing, you can't do that. Yeah, David says, I think the most difficult thing might be gathering data from so many different sources. Of course, we went online. I want to talk about this for a second. uh, one source of information, but that's not real. We probably have 4 or 5 databases at a minimum. We cannot write APIs for them because they are proprietary and won't allow it. Okay, so David, you are correct. That is a difficult part. However, our position is that we don't need data from everywhere. We don't need a perfect picture of the world. What we want is just the right amount of data to start to make some decisions. Done is better than perfect. I love that phrase. I don't want to say none. I'm not even sure if I should say very few, but I'm gonna. Very few of us have life-threatening decisions that we're making. We are not the military, and most of us aren't surgeons. Uh, so we are looking at the AMS, of which we have like 50 integrations. So we are integrated with just about anyone using Prop Fuel. So we're looking at the AMS data. We are looking at website activity. We are looking at SMS data. We're looking at some of the email interactions you have with people. And that alone is enough to tell us some really, really good stuff. What I want to do over time is get access to event data, the event systems. I'd like to get access to your communities through APIs. I'd like to get access to the LMS. And my God, if we have all that, that is more than enough to tell us what is going on with the members. So your systems do not need to talk to each other. We just need to be able to capture some of that data inside of PropFuel, which is all your data, by the way. You should have no anxiety about your data being used to train other systems we do not own that data. It's still your data like it always has been. Catherine, I think it's really cool if it's this simple. I know, right? I'm with you on that. I'll tell you in a couple of months. But literally, it's a couple months. Like this is moving very, very fast. When we see you guys at MMCT, you're gonna be able to see some of this stuff. When is that? April, May? I think might be April or May.
May.
Done is better than perfect. What's that?
It's in May.
Perfect. Good.
MMC.
We
Yeah.
might need that extra few weeks. With Momentive buying everybody out, eventually all your database will be integrated. Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, Momentive just bought Personify, which gave them another like 5 AMSs. That was really interesting. No degrade in service because they were all private equity owned to begin with. Do you integrate with Swoogo? I don't know what Swoogo is, but yes, with HubSpot. I'm not sure what Swoogo is. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate this. I want to show you one more thing. We can skip that. Shoot, that was more like if we have time, we're going to go through that. Check this out. I know, it's crazy, but let me just show it to you for a second. Uh, this is also through Notebook LM. Notebook LM has this infographic. So I said, can you give me an infographic summarizing, this whole membership AI thing? From chaos to clarity, it came up with that phrase, which is kind of cool. But basically, I have all this information going, and this is, I love this visual. And it really is kind of what it feels like when we have all this stuff. We don't have a clear path to success. All the member information is fragmented. And then we have an immense amount of work because we have to do all these different things to try to get to the magic. And so the idea is we're going to start with clarity. We're going to start to identify what's going on here. Let's organize this stuff into piles. Then let's create some direction, identify the high value activities that should take place, and then let us do it for you. You've got to approve it. And I sure hope that we can make that approval process easy for you because that's where things get hung up. We're like, okay, ready to go. We got to do something now. And if we can make that approval process easy for you, all the much better. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for this feedback. If you'd like, I think you can download the chat. Yep, save chat. I'm doing that right now. Click on if you have it, those 3 little dots. Ellipses, I think it's called. Did I mention social media interactions in this? I did not mention that. What do you mean, Catherine? Watching, are you talking about watching people's behavior on social media?
Yeah, will that behavior interactions with our social posts be included in that data?
No, I don't think so. And because it is so hard to get access to that data.
Mhm.
I think we could probably, and I'm just making stuff up right now, we could probably observe social posts but LinkedIn, like Instagram, Facebook, Meta, I mean, they are exceptionally private with their data, as they should be.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
social has always been a very, very difficult one to tap into in terms of observing data. Like one of the things we struggle with, and by everybody, if you need to go, I understand we're already 1 minute after the hour. LinkedIn has an immense amount of great data, like titles. And wouldn't that be cool to be able to identify if somebody's title has changed and then update your profile based on that? But we can't actually officially get that data. There are some questionable behaviors or lists out there that somehow figure out how to do that, maybe with manual effort. But yeah, that's the giant challenge with social. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year.